Good afternoon, everyone, for those who are in Canada and from the North America, and good very early morning for those who are joining us from the regions. I know some of you are joining from the regions, so thank you very much for coming in the early morning of your time and also in the afternoon of your time. I would like to welcome you all today in today's exciting webinar on unlocking halal market opportunities in Southeast Asia. This webinar is hosted by Canada-ASEAN Business Council and its Agriculture and Agri-food Committee in partnership with Canada Indo-Pacific Agriculture and Agri-food Office, or IPAAO. It is very fantastic to see some of you here right now joining us from across Canada and also Southeast Asia. We are thrilled to have such a diverse and dynamic audience, eager to learn more about the vast opportunities in the halal market. As many of you know, Southeast Asia is a rapidly growing market, and the halal industry is one of the most promising sectors in the region. So, whether you are looking to expand your businesses, explore new export opportunities, or simply gain deeper insights into halal market, today's webinar is designed to equip you with the knowledge and resources you need. And today's webinar is packed with insightful discussions and expert-led sessions on various aspects of the halal market in Southeast Asia. We'll be covering key topics such as the growth and potential of the halal market in Southeast Asia, regulatory and certification processes for halal products, and also best practices for Canadian businesses seeking to enter halal space. We have a stellar lineup of speakers, and we're certain that you will walk away with valuable insights and actionable strategies for your businesses. But before we begin, a few housekeeping items from me. First, I'd like to kindly inform everyone that this webinar is being recorded for quality and educational purposes. And second, we encourage you to engage with us throughout the session. Please feel free to submit your questions via the Q&A chat box located at the bottom of your screen, and we'll address them toward the end of the sessions during our Q&A sessions. And lastly, I would like to remind everyone to please keep your microphone on mute during the sessions to avoid any background noise. This will help ensure that everyone can hear the speakers clearly and that the session runs smoothly. And when it is time for the Q&A, or if you are invited to speak, we will let you know when to unmute your mic. So please don't worry, we will make sure everyone has the chance to ask questions or engage when appropriate. And now, without further ado, let's kick off today's sessions. I will give the mic to TB Nguyen, the Executive Director of Canada-ASEAN Business Council in Canada. So over to you, TB. Please provide your remarks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rama. Good afternoon to those who are joining us in Canada, including myself, and good early morning for those who are joining us from Southeast Asia. And thank you very much for being here. So as Rama mentioned, my name is TB Nguyen. I'm the Executive Director of the Canada-ASEAN Business Council, here based in Montreal and overseeing Canada's office. On behalf of the Canada-ASEAN Business Council, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you joining us today for this very important webinar on unlocking halal market opportunities in Southeast Asia. And I might add also, with everything, the trade war happening here between Canada and US, Southeast Asian markets becomes even more important, I think, for our Canadian business to really understanding better the opportunities that lies within Southeast Asia. So we are thrilled to be collaborating with the Indo-Pacific Agriculture Agri-food Office to bring together these key stakeholders, industry experts, and business leaders to explore the vast potential of the halal market in one of the world's most dynamic regions. Southeast Asia is home to a rapidly growing halal economy, and as global markets continue to evolve, the opportunities for trade, investment, and a partnership in this sector are more significant than ever. This is why this webinar is very timely, because it is impossible to fully tap into the opportunities in Southeast Asia's market without considering the halal market. This is particularly because Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brunei populations are primarily Muslim, and they contribute to more than 1/3 of the ASEAN population. Additionally, halal products are growing in popularity due to the perception of being cruelty-free and and eco-friendly, giving the shared principles in Islam. Also, more countries in Southeast Asia are growing a number of national strategies dedicated to halal products and services development, particularly Indonesia, which has implemented mandatory halal law for all food and beverages products within Indonesia and will implement this mandatory halal law for all imported products starting from October 2026. Therefore, as we gather here today, we hope to not only share valuable insights on the halal market's growth and trends, but also to foster discussions on how businesses from Canada can collaborate, innovate, and tap into this lucrative space, whether it's in food production, agriculture, retail, or e-commerce. The halal sector offers unique avenues for growth and mutual benefit. We are excited to have such a diverse group of professionals, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders with us, and we look forward to the insights that will emerge from today's discussion. This webinar is a wonderful opportunity to learn, connect, and explore how we can create synergies between Canada and ASEAN in the rapidly expanding halal market. Thank you for your participation, and we hope you find today's session insightful and inspiring. Thank you very much. Back to you, Rama.
Yes, thank you, TB, for your remarks. Now, I would like to invite Nitin Verma, Agricultural Counselor at Canada Indo-Pacific Agriculture and Agri-food Office, to share his remark on behalf of IPAAO. Nitin, over to you.
Thank you, Rama and TB, for that excellent scene setting for today's important webinar. And to all our audience, good afternoon and good morning. As Rama mentioned, I am Nitin Verma. I'm one of the Counselor Agricultures that is part of Canada's new Indo-Pacific Agriculture Office. And I'll quickly mention a few words about our office if you're not already familiar with our office. Under Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy, we established this office based out of Manila, but with a regional focus to target this growing important region. This new office is a sign of our long-term commitment to the Indo-Pacific and the importance we place on building on Canada's reputation as a stable and trusted supplier for agriculture, agri-food, and seafood products. As we we've just completed our first year of this office's existence, we have been identifying new business opportunities, all working to advance trade, market access, and technical cooperation with partners in this region. We're working to intensify Canada's regional engagement and our bilateral and multilateral partnerships. And as already mentioned today, this work has never been more important given the need to diversify our existing trading relationships beyond traditional markets. And you may know that Canada is also investing significant effort in negotiating free trade agreements in this region, including the work completed on the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the recent CIPA, the Comprehensive Economic Partnership that was closed with Indonesia, just announced in December, a target to complete a Canada-ASEAN free trade agreement this year. And we've also just announced a launch of discussions with the Philippines, all within this part of the world. As mentioned, this webinar, in partnership with the CABC, is part of our effort to raise awareness of a very important and key market access requirement for this region that is becoming increasingly important. This will help Canadian businesses succeed in this part of the world as we see the opportunity for accessing halal markets becoming increasingly important. As mentioned, thank you for participating today. I also hope you find this webinar informative. I will also be the moderator for the discussion. And just to add to Rama's notes, in the interest of time, we won't be introducing each of our speakers' bios. This information is available on the website for this event at the CABC website, and we've shared this previously in the invite. We will look at starting with a brief presentation, however, from Dr. Sabir Ali, who is the President and CEO of the Islamic Food and Nutrition Council of Canada. And then following that presentation, we will have a lively discussion with our panel, which includes Dr. Siti Nurbaya, the Principal Consultant of Regulatory Affairs and Halal at Public Policy Asia Advisors, Mr. Ramzi Sulaiman, the Head of International Cooperation at the Halal Development Corporation in Malaysia, and Mr. Daniel Kwek, the Sales Manager for Southeast Asia from Agrifood. We will have some time for questions at the end. Rama, is that okay? Should we switch to Dr. Sabir Ali's presentation?
Yes, now we would like to invite Dr. Sabir Ali to please deliver his presentations. Dr. Sabir Ali, over to you. Dr. Sabir Ali, can you hear us?
Sorry, I think I was on mute.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been in halal business for over 28 years, but overall, also worked in the industry and manufacturing, R&D, and quality assurance. We started Islamic Food and Nutrition Council of Canada in 2007, and we've been very successful in getting accreditation from almost all over the world. In this presentation, I will start with what halal is, then the market potentials and halal certification process. Let's go to the next slide. Can I take a control or can I share my own?
We are sharing the presentations for you, Dr. Ali. You may get us when we move to the next slide.
Okay, already. So this is a simple definition of halal. So simply, it's a translated. Halal means permitted under Islamic law, and conversely, haram means forbidden. Let's go to the next one. This is a very interesting slide. I made this slide to make it easy for the people to understand why we need a halal certification. The processed food can be as simple as making a pita, which is flour and a water. Or you can also make with a complex as formulating a modern day bread. Can you see my cursor? No, maybe not. So maybe if I have a control, then I can better. But anyway, so the pita is, as I said, has only two components, and the other pita, which you can see so many ingredients, and some of them are not well known even to a layman. There are emulsifiers, there are enzymes, there are L-cysteine. If you see all those highlighted ingredients, they're all called critical ingredients because they could be derived from animal sources. So halal food was always prepared by Muslims and was usually sold by Muslims. So halal foods were made from scratches at home. There was no use of complex processed ingredients as in the modern day. There were hardly any processed food. Even fresh foods were never traded between far-off communities. Like these days, Alberta beef is available, could be in Jakarta, in Dubai, or even Kuala Lumpur. So low cost of food produced by big companies have changed this concept. New processed products produced in developed nations like US and Canada are still cheaper to buy in developing countries, even though the labor cost is low. If two same type of products sitting side by side, one, for example, a well-known national brand with a no halal logo, and other in a store brand but halal certified, the Muslim consumer will pick store brand. For the Muslim consumer, the first attraction is halal, and then product, presentation, and price. Of course, the product quality counts, but first preference is always halal status. Let's go to the next one. So actually, there were 5, 6 slides I have to cut down in one. So this is simple, the slide to say what the requirements of different food. So meat has their own requirement. I don't want to go into detail, but just giving one example. In the meat and beef industry, it starts with getting the animals, how clean they are, then the stunning process. Is it stunning? What type of stunning is? Some country don't want stunning. Some says, okay, the captive bolt is okay. The other says, no, captive bolt is not acceptable. So there is a variation in standards of law. So similarly, there's a requirement for fish and seafood. In fish and seafood, some say the fish with scales are okay, others say without scales are okay. And then there's the fruits and vegetable. They're mostly halal, but the one intoxicating one are not considered halal. And ingredients, there could be complex ingredients, there could be a simple ingredients. For example, in complex ingredients, there could be emulsifier, additives, they could be derived from animal sources, or they could be a simple part of the fruits and vegetable. So let's go to the next one, please. So this is another example, how many, I just circled, how many ingredients seem to be simple, but they are processed. In processing, there are a lot of what they call it, processing aids are involved, but nobody knows what the processing aids are. They could be derived from animal sources, or they could be as simple from bacterial sources or vegetable sources. Let's go to the next slide, please. One of the most important factor is making halal products cross-contamination. In countries like in Canada, where a company is making halal and non-halal, but they don't have enough requirements to make it halal. So they have to share the same equipment. And sometimes what happens is the same equipment used for material which is haram, like derived from porcine material, and the same material, same equipment could be used for halal. So there are a lot of requirements how to clean the equipment and how to make sure the halal products are not cross-contaminated from storage to processing to packaging to labeling all the way to the consumer. Let's go to the next one, please. So this is a very interesting slide. If you can see, there is a pork, there is a beef, and there's a bird. So how many materials are derived from pork? And those materials are derived from glands, from bladder, from liver, from thyroid glands, from heart. So all these parts of the pork are used in one way or the other, either in a food, in a pharmaceutical, or cosmetics. And the same, if you go to cattle-derived material, it's the same story in the bird. So that's why the halal certification is so important. That the certifier has to go through the complete ingredients, the processing it, to make sure there is no material derived from non-halal sources. Let's go to the next one, please. So this is some of the examples, how many materials can have animal-derived materials. So I won't go one by one, but this is these are the animal products in the list, starting from gelatin, emulsifiers, then all the way up to bone meal. So these are used one way or the other in food, in pharmaceutical, and in cosmetics. Let's go to the next one, please. So let's go to the next part of my presentation, the future of global Muslim population. So this slide can give you some idea of the Muslim population in the world. Just in Canada, the number of Muslims around the world is projected to increase rapidly. in decades, growing from about 1.6 billion in 2010 to nearly 2.8 billion in 2050. These are some numbers. Okay, let's go to the next one, please. So this will give you some breakdown, and you can see the Southeast Asia and Southeast Asia has most of the Muslim in that part of the region. And North America is about 9 million people. And let's go to the next slide, please. So this is about the global halal industry. There are 2 billion Muslims worth 2 trillion per year. This is how the big market is. So halal industry has it can in halal industry, the food, pharmaceutical, cosmetics, personal care products, tourism, logistics. So these are all part of the halal certification. So these are some of the most popular meat and poultry, dairy, bakery, sweet. These are the area we certify a lot in Canada. I'm pretty sure this is the same all over the world. Let's go to the next one, please. So again, this marketing opportunities, global market for halal products. So there says the global halal market is estimated USD 3.29 trillion worldwide in 2024. It is predicted to be value around 4.569 billion or 4.5 trillion by 2030 and 5 trillion by 2031. Indonesia, South Asia's largest economy, as was just told, 1.5 million population with a GDP close to 1.54 trillion. Malaysia has 34 million people with a GDP close to 450 billion. And North America halal market is about 20 billion. And Canada is around 2 billion per year. Let's go to the next one, please. So this is same Indonesia's Canada 22nd largest merchandise trading partner with a two-way trade totaling about 5.1 billion in 2023. And the product included food, pharmaceutical, cosmetic, and leather goods, as well as services. And Canadian direct investment. So these are the number I just got from Google. And Canada main export, which we deal with, is our cereal. We have some clients who do some nutritional products, some seed products, some oil products. Let's go to the next one, please. So the key segments, as I said, the food and beverage, and then pharmaceutical and cosmetic. The main requirement, of course, is all have to be free from animal-derived material and alcohol, and then the travel and tourism, halal travel, Muslim-friendly hotels, has reached almost 189 billion in 2021. And the finance includes Islamic banking, bonds, and insurance adhering to Sharia principle. So let's go to the next one, please. So these are some of the growth drivers. I won't go into the details. Next, go to the next one. So why halal certification, the importance of halal certification trade. So these are the pioneering country in requesting halal certificate. From Canada, we have a lot of export to Middle Eastern country, North America, and then Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore. So these are the big market for our certified product at the present time. Next one, please. So what are the main challenges in certification? Main challenges are sourcing halal certified ingredients. When a client comes, the first thing they would ask where we can get the halal certified ingredients. So it is a big challenge, and most of the time we will get halal certified, but sometimes with the critical ingredients, we have to do a lot of study, a lot of research to make sure at least they're halal compliant. And as I said, pharmaceutical, cosmetic, and personal care product often require reformulation. We ask the clients to reformulate with halal certified ingredients, as the use of non-halal components such as alcohol or certain animal-derived material could invalidate the certification. This means that Canadian business must work closely with the businesses to reformulate their product to ensure they meet halal standard, especially when it comes to the sourcing of an ingredient. Next one, please. So role of halal certification body in supporting Canadian business navigate halal certification process required by importing countries. So we provide guidance, we provide expertise in making sure the product they produce are halal compliant. It includes all the ingredient, the process, all the storage facilities. So what we do when they come to us, we start with their product, their components, then we evaluate their raw materials, we evaluate their processing, their storage, and then based on the whole application process, how complex is the process, then we determine the inspections and auditings, and at the same time, we make sure the labeling is in compliance with the halal requirements. Let's go to the next one, please. So how difficult to get certified by Canadian companies? So number one is Canadian has a very strict regulation when it comes to CFIA regulations. One of the very interesting thing here is I found is the Canadian Global Food Security Index is number 7 in the world. It's better than even US, which is number 9. I think Indonesia is number 63. So this is how good our products are in Canada. Most companies already have a third-party food safety audit, non-GM, kosher, and organic certifications. I'm talking about in Canada. And working with the accredited halal certification body, easier to get halal certified when you have all these certifications. And the technical people in halal certification body like IFNACC, Islamic Food and Nutrition Council of Canada, a lot of people have experience in food industry. So our auditors have experience in manufacturing, in R&D, and quality assurance. So based on the recipe, based on the ingredient list provided to our organization, we can determine which materials need halal certificate, which are okay to be included in halal products. So it makes life very simple and easy on both industry side or client side and halal certification body. Overall, our experience working with Canadian organization, Canadian clients in manufacturing, I don't think it's a difficult to get a halal certification. I said the main reason most of our food industry has a third-party food safety audit, and they have a kosher certification, they have organic certification, and of course the CFI has a very strict regulations when it comes to food quality, food compliance. Let's go to the next one, please. So some consideration when seeking halal certification, the facility R&D upgrade. Sometimes we do ask the companies, for example, they're producing a product which is derived from pork, and then they want to produce halal. So they have to meet the halal requirement. If they are export to Indonesia, Malaysia, for example, it has to be totally separate facility. If they're exporting to a country where they say they will consider the proper cleaning and sanitation, even if the same facility, they want to see how segregated is the halal process. So it depends from country's requirement, but we ask the company to meet at least the minimum requirements of halal so they can export to the maximum countries. Of course, they need employees training. They have to face diverse standards. It depends where they're exporting. They are exporting to Indonesia. They say, okay, there is no stunning. We don't want a stunning for poultry, or we don't want a stunning, for example, the scepter bolt stunning for the animal. But when it goes to some Middle Eastern country, they say, no, we accept the stunning as long as it does not damage the skull. So there's a big differences in the regulations. So that's what the client has to understand. And then the challenge, of course, is certified. The business has to make sure, have to make sure who certified they're working with. Are they working with a certification body who is meeting all the standard from the world, or they're meeting with a certification body who does not comply, or who does not have any accreditation from any country? So it is, or they are not accepted in another part of the world. So it is a client, or it's the food industry who has to decide which certified they want to go to with. Then, of course, as I said, this is a complexity of regulation. There is a big difference going from BPJPA to Gulf countries. If they're going with BPJPH or Indonesia, they have to make sure they have to have a halal assurance system. They have to have a proper documentation. And then another challenge is the duration of service. They want for 1 year, they want for 10 years, or they want forever, Sometimes the client would come, no, we just need it for 1 year. We want to just try if there's a good market for halal. And sometimes the company's been with us for maybe 20, 30 years, and they're happy with it. And then, of course, there is cost of service. They want to see how expensive is to make it halal. It's not just the fee. It is also how many modifications they have to do in their process. Let's go to the next one, please. So these are some of the products that we certify in Canada. And this is the next one, please. So this is simple halal certification process. You have to get a halal certification application. It is a field. It's sent to us. We review it. Once it's reviewed, there is an agreement signed. Price is given. And then we arrange with the client. We arrange on-site audit. Once audit is done, audit is sent back to the certification committee. The certification committee has the technical people and Islamic affairs experts. They evaluate the whole process, non-conformances and everything. Once they approve it, then we issue the halal certificate. So this is the process. Go to the next one, please. So what is the IFNCC? As I said, explain, we are technical expert. We have a PhDs, we have masters. Then we have religious advisor. Most of our people, actually all of our people got the trainings. They got training from BPJPS. They got the training from, Indonesia through BPJPH. We got the training from Malaysia. We got the training from a lot of Middle Eastern countries, including Saudi Arabia. As I said, we have experience in the food, pharmaceutical, and cosmetic industry. When I say experience, it's not just a halal experience, but the people who worked in those industries, they understand the process, they understand the product, which is make it easy for the industry to get a halal certification. Our auditor understand the industry, and they design the audits to complement with the company personnel. And of course, we speak the language of industry, because most of the people came from the industry. Next one, please. So these are some of our accreditation we have from different part of the world. Next one, please. Development of growth. We are Canadian Halal Certification Body, a federally incorporated not-for-profit organization. Our head office is in Toronto and in Vancouver. One of the big challenge is cross-border certification. What it is, before we were not accredited. A lot of halal certification body cross from the border from the US would come and certify product in Canada. Then when we got the accreditation, but we still have some challenges. There's still some company from US, they are coming here, they are certifying product. What they do, then they work with some certification body who are certified or accredited by, for example, UAE, for example. So they will work with them, and then they say, okay, we will give you a certificate, but you can still keep doing the certification in Canada. So there are some complications with those ones. And then we working with we still have a few more to go, accreditation, but most of them, we have the accreditation from all over the world. We have a good working relationship with halal authorities all over the world. We work closely with the Canadian Meat Council, government agency, and Canadian foreign offices all over the world. Next one, please. Well, thank you very much. And if you want to contact us, I have my personal 2 email addresses. I have office address and my mobile number. Well, thank you very much. If you have any questions, please feel free.
Thank you, Dr. Sabirali. Now I would like to pass the mic to Nitin to start the panel discussions. Nitin, over to you.
Thank you, Rama, and thank you, Dr. Sabirali. That was an excellent overview, I think, of the context and framing the importance of this discussion today. As I mentioned, we'll switch to a panel discussion with our esteemed panel members here. We've got some targeted questions to our panel members, but really, encouraging some healthy discussion. And as I said, we will have time for questions after the panel discussion. So let's start with trying to understand a bit more about the opportunity. In Dr. Ali's presentation, we saw, there's a focus on Indonesia and Malaysia, of course, as export markets for some of our halal certified products from Canada. But I also took note of the growing importance of tourism. We're seeing the Philippines and Thailand, especially, as huge tourism destinations in this part of the world. They are increasingly offering halal options in hotels and resorts. And so I think the first question is maybe we could ask Mr. Ramzi from Halal Development Corporation, could you share with us at a high level the current demand and opportunity for halal products? And of course, since you're speaking from Malaysia, particularly in the Muslim majority countries such as Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei. Over to you, Mr. Ramzi.
Okay, a very good morning from Malaysia, and also good afternoon in Canada. Thank you, Nitin, and also thank you to the organizer for having us this morning. And there's a lot of things that actually Dr. Sabir has shared in his presentation across many of the countries in ASEAN. Yes, these are the things that the organizations, the government stakeholders, the community looking at. Just to give an overview about, I'm from the Halal Development Corporation, HTC. We are actually an agency under the Malaysian Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry, MITI. And we are looking at the development of halal in this Malaysia. Just an overview about Southeast Asia, representing around of the 10 countries, there are around approximately 282.5 million Muslim out of the 667.6 million. That's around 42% Muslim residing within the ASEAN countries. Yeah? And of course, being the largest Indonesia. And you will notice that the demand for halal products and services are huge within the ASEAN community. And looking at the certification body, which is a competent authority that is responsible to certify products for halal, I believe in majority of the ASEAN countries, it has its own competent authority to look into this process. Yeah, and again, equally important is how each of these certification bodies are being recognized across among the countries within ASEAN, for example. And also, if you are looking at the shipment of products into global markets, how are these halal marks being recognized also by various certification body across the world. Yeah? And one of the things that it has to be ongoing about halal is on the awareness itself. Yeah, like what Dr. Sabi has shared earlier, that's part of the awareness program, because we are looking at halal beyond the food and beverage sectors. Yeah, there are key sectors, for example, halal ingredient. This is very critical because throughout the process of halal products, ingredients are present. So to ensure this product to be certified halal, the ingredients also have to be certified halal. Yeah? And again, there are personal care and cosmetics, pharmaceutical, and also services, for example, like logistics, and what as mentioned by Nitin earlier, the tourism sector, yeah, because I think this is more on the economic contribution for respective country, and I believe even though halal is meant for Muslim requirement, but with halal certified products are now consumable for all consumers. And if you go to the retail, for example, in Malaysia, by default, if you pick up a product within the supermarket, you will notice that majority of them has the halal certified marks. Yeah, either it's from Malaysia or from other countries that has the halal mark recognized by the Malaysian authority. Yeah, and also there are more producers are encouraged to apply for halal certification in Malaysia, not only for domestic market, but also looking at the export opportunities. Yeah? And many producers globally are going for halal certification also to capture a bigger global market and penetrating into market with high percentage of Muslim population. If before this, you may look at the percentage of entering, for example, a Muslim majority countries, but by having a halal certified, and when consumer look at those halal marks, it gives the confidence actually, and you are actually having the opportunity to increase your market opportunity. And then within the ASEAN countries members also, we do have working groups to harmonize quite a number of things and to ensure that the understanding of halal within the ASEAN communities are also looking at the standards and also the requirements. So we try to adapt a scenario which among the ASEAN countries, we understand about what is halal that comes from different countries. As a general overview about what's happening now in ASEAN. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramzi. That's very useful. I'll turn this now to maybe back to Dr. Ali, but also Daniel with AgroPure. You're our panel member representing a commercial company and really interested in your experience as testimonial accessing this opportunity. Based on this overview, can you share from a Canadian perspective, especially in sectors like food and beverage where you're working, how important is it to tap into this opportunity that we've been painted a picture of?
Thank you everybody for having me on this panel today. I think echoing what Ramzi has mentioned in Malaysia, a lot of the packaged goods that we see in Southeast Asia or this part of the world tends to be halal qualified and certified. So this is the license to play. I think far and few between, we have very little end products that are non-halal certified. So that is the fact of the matter. In terms of the economy and the potential for the food and beverage business, we are fifth most population, fifth largest GDP in the world, ASEAN, third most populated region after China and India. relatively young population, and so on and so forth. The macros were explained. So in terms of not having a halal certification, it's probably going to disqualify you from this essential markets. If you're a growing company, global company, serious about expanding your business into diversified markets, I think having the halal certification is a prerequisite to enter Southeast Asia.
Fantastic. Dr. Ali, did you want to add anything?
I have a couple actually very
Sure.
interesting numbers. Asia Pacific industry is estimated to dominate majority revenue share of 40% by 2037. This is due to rapid industrialization in the region. This is one. And then according to a 2023 report, Muslims in Asia Pacific consume about 90% of the total halal products, with a 50% as a meat. It's a very interesting numbers, actually.
Indeed.
So there is a massive opportunity for Canadian companies and ASEAN, particularly Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brunei, for the halal products.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So with our experience, the clients who come to us, they come mostly cereals, mustard, pea, chickpea, lentil, seafood, fruit, processed fruits, like frozen blueberries, strawberries, vegetable, bakery products, and most popular maple products. So these are the very popular products which are mostly sent to that part of the world.
And
I have another very interesting thing to share. So I'm just talking about only Indonesia. So Indonesia total international import of agri and seafood is 37.9 billion in 2023. And Canada is the 8th largest supplier of agri-food and seafood products to Indonesia, totaling about only 1.6 billion, which is 4.3% of the total imports of 37.9 billion. So there is a lot of opportunity for Canadian product for that market.
Well, those are very interesting numbers, Dr. Ali. Thank you for framing that contest. I think that really, highlights the importance of this region from a purely economic business sense. The opportunity and scope here, if we look beyond our traditional markets, is really immense. I'd like to turn to Dr. Siti to get your inputs on this topic. We've already heard from Dr. Ali in terms of a rough overview of the halal certification process in Southeast Asia. But Dr. Siti, given your extensive experience working in this region, could you talk about a little bit of what you've learned about the halal certification requirements from ASEAN, and maybe focus on how do some of those certification requirements differ between the markets? We've already heard Dr. Ali talk about slaughter differences and other regional variations, but I think that's an important point to highlight to our Canadian audience here, that really, it's not just a one-stop shop to say halal. There are some variations depending on which market you're keen on.
Thank you, Nitin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Walhamdulillahi wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. In the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and blessings on our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Peace be upon you. Though, as Phoebe stated earlier, in this climate of tariff increase, it's kind of hard to have peace, but nevertheless, here we are. This event hopefully will bring you some peace, because we are here to provide solutions, diversifying your markets. So take heart. So, in the next at least 1 hour, we hope to resolve some of these issues. So thank you, Nitin, for that question. Essentially, the halal certification processes is no different from most of the other internationally recognized standards, like the ISO, like Codex, like HACCP. It's very similar. There's nothing mysterious about it. So you start off with if you want to obtain the halal certificate, you have to have the halal setup. That means you have to have the system in place. Then, of course, you have to decide, as Dr. Ali has said, to work with a certifying body. So a certifying body is a body that certifies, that verifies, that validates that your system complies to the standards, in this case, halal. And after that, you discuss what have you, the administrative part. And then you, of course, you have to submit your documentation. So again, this is nothing different. You have to submit complete documentation. And once the documentation is completed, everything is good to go, then there'll be an on-site audit. So the halal auditors will come in and look at the specifics for halal requirements. So if you are going for, say, ISO 22000, so the auditors will come and look at the specific for food safety, the hazards, the physical, chemical, and biological. So in halal, they will come and look at the critical halal points. What steps in your process can actually cause your product to be non-halal? So very similar. So again, once that on-site audit is done, and if there's any corrective action requires, you have to complete that. Again, sometimes from my experience, the corrective actions can be hard to comply with, but then that's where you work together with the auditors and it can be resolved, yeah? And then you get the certification. So technically that is the process for certification. But again, okay, we have to step back. If you look at the quality and food safety standards that are internationally recognized, it's a one-stop shop, as Nitin has said. One-stop shop, one standard fits all. You must understand that halal is a religious decree. It is not secular. So we base on scriptures. Okay, we base the requirements by our Holy Quran, by the prophets' practices of the prophet. Hence, as all other scriptures, as you know, it is open to interpretation. All right. But having said that, yeah, although, you can say that, open to interpretation. So how do they interpret? So it's based on the knowledge of the fatwa committees. Some can interpret strictly. Some can interpret very strictly. Sorry, there's no easy interpretation. It's either strict or very strict, depending on how they feel about not transgressing the scripture. So you have to respect that these people, they are knowledgeable. They try to elucidate, the scripture, and based on their understanding, they will give the fatwa, which is the edict. So it can be strict or moderately strict or very strict. So again, it's open to interpretation. So that's where the differences comes in. I will not go into the differences, just suffice to say that there are differences. Having said that, there are millions, I'm exaggerating here. There are thousands of companies around the world that are already halal certified. So it can't be, how difficult can it be, right? So let me give you the assurance that despite the differences, 80% of all the halal certification standards around the world are the same. If you have a live animal, you have to slaughter. If you have if you're using food ingredients, processed food ingredients, ensure that it's not categorized as filth. So the category of filth in the Islamic religion comprise of porcine, as you have seen Dr. Ali's presentation earlier. Not only porcine, intoxicants. So people just go, oh, you can't put alcohol in food, in halal food. Again, the question is the definition of alcohol. So here I'm saying intoxicants. Not only alcohol, the alcoholic beverages can be intoxicated, but drugs can also be intoxicated. So you can't simply put drugs like codeine, for example, in food, because it is an intoxicant. So yes, there are different levels of filth, yeah, the different levels of complexities in the processes. And this is where the differences are. So I would say about 20%. So 80%, it's technically, it's very similar. But what is important in all these halal standards is hygiene. Hygiene is at the uppermost of these standards. So if you can already assure that your food is safe, of a quality that is acceptable by consumers, hey, you've already got 80% of it. So you just have to work on the 20%. And that 20% is not impossible. Like I've said, thousands of companies are already halal certified. I guess Dr. Ali can vouch, that statement, because it's not impossible. So again, Nitin, yes, the halal standards can be different for different countries around the world, especially in ASEAN, but it can be done because, like I said, 80% or at least 80 to 90%, it's similar. Work on the 10%. I hope that
Thank you.
that helps.
No, that's very helpful, Dr. Siti. And it also reminds us of Dr. Ali's comment earlier that, with Canada's very strong reputation as a supplier of safe food products. He mentioned, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency as a credible regulator has really contributed to Canada's position as, one of the highest food safety standards in the world. And if the halal certification requirement is 80% food safety, then Canadian businesses and Canadian exporters are already set up to fulfill that food safety aspect of their product process. That's a very nice segue. Maybe Daniel, would you like to comment on these regulatory frameworks and how they fit into the halal requirements for this part of the world, and how Canada is well positioned really to navigate those requirements?
I wouldn't talk more about the frameworks, but I think that some interpretation and technical difficulties in the initial stages. For example, just citing Dr. Sabri Ali, the number of population of Muslims in North America is about 9 mil, and very quickly this gets diluted across the space. But part of the halal requirements requires manufacturers like Agriculture to have on-site Muslim halal assurance officers, of which finding possible staffing already is very tough, adequate staffing and talents. On top of that, you put a layer of imposing Muslim officers overseeing the manufacturing process as part of the halal certification requirements, makes it very, very tough from a logistical or operational point of view. But of course, work with IFANs and the local certifying bodies like IFANs or Halal Montreal, and then there can be workarounds around the situations. So behind that, in Southeast Asia, excuse me, from time to time, political, just like what Dr. Siti had mentioned, the overarching application of the halal certification is largely, by and large, very similar. But then, of course, with different political regimes, there might be a rework, a tweaking of the degree of application of such halal rules in Southeast Asia. So we have seen multiple changes from time to time. These are not daunting major changes, but minor tweaks. But of course, for export markets, this can be very, very meddlesome to your operational efficiency. So we won't go into the details, but expect those slight changes from time to time that you have to pivot and adjust for export markets.
Thank you, Daniel, for highlighting some of those challenges. I think that's very valuable. And also, you mentioned the existence of bodies like IFANSI and Halal Montreal. So, there are resources within Canada to help our exporters and our businesses understand what are those tweaks. And I think, I would almost say that that's similar to any export requirements that companies have to deal with, right? There's always change and modification and evolution of those requirements over time, not just halal. So it comes down to, I guess, a business decision. How important is that market? And on that note, maybe we could ask Mr. Ramzi and maybe Dr. Siti and Dr. Ali, from your awareness of the region, for our businesses and our agri-food exporters, what are the things we need to consider when developing a market entry strategy? Who are the key stakeholders? Who are the key government agencies and the industry bodies in Southeast Asia that we need to be aware of when we want to access these markets?
Okay, thank you again, Nitin. First of all, we need to look at the respective country requirements. For example, is halal mandatory or voluntarily? Yeah. For example, as what Dr. Sabir mentioned earlier, Indonesia has its ruling that comes effective in 2026. And for Malaysia environment, the halal certification is still a voluntarily process for companies to apply for the halal certification. In fact, if you look at the entering into a different country markets, of course, for example, without halal certification, you can enter the market. But if you want to enter Malaysia with the halal mark, this is something that the businesses has to consider. The labeling of halal, is it coming from that respective country? Is it recognized by the Malaysian authority? Yeah. Even though it's a voluntary process in Malaysia, the awareness on halal has reached actually to a point where we are ongoing to tell the consumers about this. Yeah. And the benefit of having this product to be certified halal from the perspective of the good manufacturing practices, for example. Yeah. So that means if you are consuming a certified halal product, it is a safe product. Yeah. And the labeling itself gives a confidence, as what mentioned by Dr. Siti just now. Yeah. You actually are consuming a product which is looking from a different perspective in terms of the hygienic, for example. Yeah. That's the reason why key stakeholders from respective country, for example, if you have a certification body, that's where the role comes in. Yeah. For example, if you are having a halal mark from a country, you need to cross-check whether the exporting countries, do they actually recognize your halal mark before entering? Yeah. So for example, like in Malaysia, our authority body under the Department of Islamic Development Malaysia, or JAKIM, recognizes 88 global certification from 49 countries. Yeah. So there are 2 from Canada, for example. So again, ensuring that your halal mark is recognized, that's of course the first step that you need to look at. Yeah. And of course, the other stakeholders, for example, like the customs, the trade agency of the respective country. Because sometimes, for example, in our scenario here, many international trade agencies are very much keen to work with us. Why? Because they wanted to look at the opportunity to enter into the Malaysian market, for example, or any of the countries that you are planning to do so. Yeah. So that's roughly from me, Nitin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramzi. Dr. Siti or Dr. Ali, anything to add in terms of key stakeholders and agencies and bodies our companies should engage with?
Sorry. Yeah, I pretty much the same, but I will add a few things. Of course, affordability, health and nutrition, convenience and accessibility, aesthetics and informative packaging, natural and whole grain ingredients, supply chain, logistics. So these are all the factors count. And of course, the trade agreements and market access will count toward this. Again, as I said before, to my experience working with the food industry, then in the halal industry, Canada is producing one of the best safe food, quality food. Their regulations on labeling, and then combined with halal requirements from Malaysia and Indonesia, it could be a best combination. Because in my experience, if you follow Jakim and BPJP India and Malaysia, you will cover almost all the halal standards in the world. That's my experience.
Excellent. Thank you. Dr. Siti, anything to add?
Yeah. Thank you, Nitin. In terms of developing a market entry strategy for Canadian businesses, so again, halal standards regards hygiene as one of the most important component for the standards. So that is beyond a doubt. And as we can see, the CFIA is one of the best food safety authorities in the world. And to tell you the truth, when I teach, CFIA is my go-to resource. It's amazing, right? So once you have that, the other thing that I would like to perhaps advise is be sensitive to the locals, be sensitive to the religion, because sometimes you can have a halal product which is certified, but sometimes the advertisement, the what do you call it, the conversation around your product, around the religion, it has to be in tandem. Meaning to say that you have a halal product, you are selling the halal product in a market that has high sensitivities about the religion. So your conversation, your communication has to be in tandem. So it has to be also halal in a sense, all right? Use the words that doesn't cause, issues with the local customs. That's one, right? So I think the sensitivities has to, in terms of communication, marketing, especially your advertisements, your marketing collaterals, it has to also be halal. Sometimes there's a disengagement between the product and the conversation. So that I would advise it. In terms of stakeholders, yes, you have to be well-versed with the local halal authorities, all right? And if you look at ASEAN, almost all the ASEAN halal authorities are government-based, yeah? So because of, obviously when you have issues with halal certification, only the government can bring you to court, not a private, entity. So that's the reason why almost all the halal standards are actually governed by the government of the ASEAN member states. But at the same time, I would also advise Canadian businesses to leverage on your people in the market. You have so many Canadian trade representatives. You have CABC, you have the trade missions, you have the Export Development Canada, and not only that, you IPAAO, and very new, right? And not only that, work with your distributors, work with your local agent. These are the people in the market. They know the landscape, they know the people, and your tax money is being, is working for you. Use that, leverage on that. They are there for a reason, not for holiday. They are there to help you, to clarify, any issues, to update you, to expand your knowledge. So these are the people, the stakeholders that you should leverage on, because they are in the market, they know what's happening. So use them wisely. You pay tax, so as I say, use them, and that should help you to navigate the landscape or the market, how to penetrate the market. So these are your experts. Use them. Okay, that's from me, Nitin. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Siti, and as a proud public servant with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency for over 18 years, I really enjoyed your comments about the CFIA's reputation. I appreciate that. And you're absolutely right. You know, unfortunately, they could not join the seminar today, but we have trade commissioners sitting in both Malaysia and Indonesia. In Malaysia, we have Ms. Katia Maud Laflamme at the Embassy of Canada, and at the High Commission of Canada, I should say. And we also have in Indonesia, in Jakarta, we have Ms. Jasmine Labelle at the Embassy of Canada. And so if you have any questions, you know, as an exporter or a business person, or you want to understand the landscape, we have an excellent range of experts on this call, but please feel free to reach out to, as Dr. Siti said, all these, you know, taxpayer funded organizations at the federal government and provincial level that are working for you in any of these resources. Daniel, I saw you nodding a lot to the comments Mr. Ramsey and Dr. Siti were making. Is there anything you'd like to share from AgriPure's perspective in terms of a market entry strategy? You know, what did you find successful to access this region as a market?
All right, yeah, I mean, assuming there is limited resources, so when we talk about market entry strategy, I think the two markets, I couldn't say it better. I think Dr. Safri Ali mentioned that Malaysia and Indonesia are your go-to markets, so keep focused and align your halal certification and protocol to these regimes. For example, very practical perspective in Southeast Asia, we have clients that we sell to in Thailand, manufacturing food products that export their products into majority markets like Malaysia and Indonesia as well. So without the approval from either of these two regimes, your market will only be restricted in the Thai sense of things. So the idea is aim towards Malaysia and Indonesia because there's a lot of cross trade going on, and you might be thinking you only sell into Thailand or Vietnam, but these guys, they manufacture for other markets as well. So keep those two key regimes in mind would practical strategies for business entry for Southeast Asia.
Thank you, Daniel, and everyone for your comments on that question. Let's switch gears a little bit. I mentioned in my opening remarks how much effort Canada is expending on free trade agreements in this region, and I'd love your comments, maybe to the whole panel here. How do trade agreements between Canada and the Southeast Asian member states, such as the potential, you know, the Canadian-ASEAN free trade agreement we're working on for targeting this year, how do these agreements influence this conversation and market access for Canadian halal products? Maybe we'll start with Mr. Ramsey. Would you like to start?
Sorry. Okay. Looking at this free trade agreement, of course, there are many informations or what I call it statistics that you need to look at. Especially when it comes to the FTAs, how does halal products can benefit from any of this agreement? For example, like in terms of the tax, for example, and I believe this is not only happening for the Canadian, but also the interest on other markets also, So this is something between a government, it's a G2G,
yes,
you know, and how this actually benefit both countries. This is one thing that we always look at, a win-win situation from these FTAs. Yeah, that's from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Ali or Dr. Siti?
Yeah, I think this is the best time to reduce tariffs and trade barrier while we're still working with our southern brothers, right?
Never has our work been more important.
Yeah, exactly. Then I have an enhanced market access and export opportunity. This is another one. We have to strengthen our trade relations and certifications with these countries. You know, these are 2-3 points we have to, and facilitate investment and partnership with all the Asian countries. Thank you.
Dr. Siti or Daniel, any comment on FTA?
Well, thanks, Siti. Maybe not too much on the specifics of the FTA, but as far as I know, the FTAs are normally negotiated, you know, mostly on tariffs, yeah, and you know, quantum, for example, of export. If you talk about non-tariff barrier or non-tariff measures, that's another big, you know, topic that we can discuss later, which is of interest of mine. But anyway, in terms of halal, I do not see the FTA would have any bearings on the halal, I guess, the halal trade for halal, because at the end of the day, the halal certification supersedes the FTA. But again, if let's say the negotiation is successful to say open up the market that is accessible to more Canadian products coming into the region, then I would say, you know, it's a positive development. But again, specific to halal, I am not sure if that is going to be negotiated. As far as I know from previous FTAs, that would not be included in the major negotiation, probably on the sideline, but not on the major negotiation. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Daniel, anything to add to that?
Oh, just to write on what Dr. Sidi has mentioned, the halal situation or issue was negotiated on the sidelines from 2023, I think, by invitation of CABC as well as Trade Commissioner of Canada. We were asked to present our case on trade barriers and Indonesian reciprocal acceptance of Canadian issued halal certification was one of the trade barriers that we brought up to this committee at that point in time. As a result of further discussions and negotiations between both G2G, I think today we are preliminary approved or already approved without a formal agreement at this point in time. So the market has been open as a result, direct or indirectly, through FTA negotiations between these two countries.
Excellent. Thank you. And you know, one prevailing comment we hear from working in this region is because of the price sensitivities, those import tariffs do play a big role in selecting origin of products. So I think it's heartening to see Canada so active in this region in terms of pursuing FTAs, and that will only support the halal certification requirements. I'm a bit conscious of time. I would like to leave a bit of time for any questions from our audience, but maybe we'll end with a rapid fire question to each of our panel members. If you could name one highly viable opportunity, and we're looking for the low-hanging fruit here, for Canada to access the ASEAN market in the halal space. Maybe we'll start with Dr. Ali.
Yes, I think one of the best beef produced in the world is in Canada, and that could be a big opportunity also for poultry, and other is plant-based products. We have a lot of good raw materials available in Canada to produce plant-based products because they're getting very popular all over the world.
Yes.
I think these are the two areas we have a lot of opportunity to export to that part of the world.
Thank you. Dr. Siti, any suggestions on one highly viable opportunity? You're on mute, Dr. Siti, sorry.
I would say that any companies with a HACCP certified, that are HACCP certified, I would definitely think that you already have one foot in the region. Yeah. So any HACCP certified companies with HACCP certified products, I would say you already have a very good standing in the region.
Thank you. That's a good point. Sir Ramzi?
Okay. I think post-COVID, in terms of the digital, there are many e-commerce digital platforms made available now to ease businesses. I think both countries should leverage on the platforms, the digital e-platform, to ensure that both countries have access and also marketing opportunities to enter into both countries, and not only limiting Malaysia, but also for other regions also. So that's why the government also are encouraging more on the digital platform as a
Digital.
market access opportunity. That's from me. Thank you.
That's a good point. We haven't discussed that yet. And Daniel, we'll give you the last word on that question.
I think low-hanging fruit, right on Canada's G2G push for Indo-Pacific strategy, specifically into Indonesia. The time is right for Canada. There's a lot of momentum built already from across all industries. If our Canadian industry, I will ride on those waves and go into the largest market, which is Indonesia for Southeast Asia.
Great, thank you. Thank you to Daniel and to the rest of our panel mates for a very lively discussion on this topic. We really benefited from your experience and wisdom in this space. Rama, I'm going to turn it back to you if we have any questions in our chat, or if anybody would like to put their hand up to use this opportunity to ask our esteemed panel members.
Yeah, thank you, Nitin, and thank you for all speakers for very insightful discussions. I think we have not received any questions so far in the chat, but I would like to open the floor to all of our participants today. If you would like to ask questions, we have the expert now, so please feel free to ask your questions, and we will mention your name and you can open your mic. I don't think.
Perhaps I have
Okay.
a question.
Okay, Dr.
Okay, the question is to all the participants. All right, this question is to all the participants. Which country is the first country that mandates or requires halal certificate for their product? Anyone can answer. And I'm giving you 30 seconds only, because you can Google and have a chat GPT and whatnot. Anyone?
I think the first country was Singapore.
Okay, Dr. Sabali, I don't have any presence, but that's incorrect. Daniel, you want to try?
I don't know. Malaysia, I would guess.
Let me give you the answer. The United States of America.
Really? Oh,
yes. That's the first. Yeah. If you want to blame anyone, yeah. The United States of America, yes, was the first country.
Actually, we're talking about export from US and Canada.
No, actually, halal certificate requirements, for food. Yeah, it came from the United States.
I see, okay.
Right.
I think there was one answer from the participants earlier from Alawiyah Ahmed, like he guessed Malaysia, but yeah, it's very surprising that it's the United States of America. So if you feel that, like, if the complexity for all this halal certification, then please put the blame to the right person who started.
No, it's not blaming. I mean, I teach, I teach this subject, and I usually like to give this question to my students, and they will just go like, Indonesia, Pakistan. Said, oh, it's the United States.
Very mind-blowing diversity. I think,
Sorry?
yeah, very mind-blowing. We cannot guess that. I was thinking it would be Indonesia also.
Although I guess it makes sense that it would be a non-traditional market, right? I mean, in markets like Indonesia and Malaysia, halal products are easily available just because of the numbers.
In fact, I know a little bit of story. Actually, it was in US, but for the export to Singapore. That was the story. It was first done in US. So the company asked one of the company I used to work with, we need a halal certificate, and they asked we need the halal certificate to export to Singapore.
I have a question. I'm Rachel. I'm from Agrifood on the export side, and I work with Walter and Daniel. And I just want to know why it took us so long to get accredited, and with all these people you're saying, the Chamber of Commerce or whoever, CFIA, that we're doing so good. Well, my question is, it took so long, and we missed so much opportunities in our business So I was just like, what could we have done differently or to smooth it, or was it just because it was a block from all sides? That's what my pet peeve was, like, we lost a lot of business because we're not halal.
You want to take that up, Daniel, or shall I?
Oh, go ahead, Dr. Sri.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel, for the question. I guess we had a previous discussion on this. So again, if a foreign company wants to penetrate the market, all right, they can get halal certificates from the certifying bodies in their country. So in Canada, you would have IFANCC, for instance, or like in Australia, there would be 13 other certifying bodies. However, for each of the markets, you have to see which of these CBs are recognized by the halal authority. So although, for example, if you have, just for argument's sake, 10 CBs in Canada that will provide halal certification, not all 10 will be recognized by all these countries or some of these countries. So the issue here is that your certifying body must be recognized, must be on the list of the halal authority of the country. So my guess, I think from the earlier discussion that I had, it could be the issue is with the accreditation of your CB. So to be a CB accredited by the halal authority, you have to present a company that is qualified to audit halal in the country. If they are not qualified, they don't have the persons qualified, they will not be accredited. And that's where the issues might have been. So it's not so much of, getting the products into the country, but more of, I guess, the local the local certifying bodies, might not have been accredited, and that might have caused a delay. I hope that helps.
So, yeah, so maybe down the road, maybe only have like a couple of creditors instead of having a whole bunch, and maybe just like regroup. I don't know if this is possible, to regroup and only have like, I don't know, in each country 2 certifying bodies instead of so many. Could you visualize, or could that become going forward in the halal body world or accreditation? Do you think so or no?
Yes,
because there's a lot of there was a report on like a journal up here in Canada saying that some restaurants were certifying that the meat was halal, and when they did their investigation, the restaurants were the people who were accrediting were not falsely halal. This is all like a scam, but that like hurt the halal industry, or saying, oh yeah, I'm halal, but are you really halal? Because you're saying you're halal, but you're not really a halal certifier. So, scams are happening in every industry. So we have to protect ourselves to say, hey, if our group wants to go with this certified body, but it's not even a certified body, how are we going to protect ourselves from that going forward? So, that's also important for us going forward in the business.
Can I answer that question though?
Yeah.
The problem in Canada is, like in Indonesia and Malaysia, all the halal activities are overseen by the government. In Canada, there is no such body who can check all the certification bodies. There are only 3 or 4 certification bodies in Canada who have accreditation. What that means, they have a proper halal quality assurance management system. Now, the halal pro you're talking about, this is a 1% halal certification body. What they do, they're sitting at home, they say, you want a halal certification. The client or the company are interested in, oh, your fees is good, You are not coming to our facility, so you are easy to go with. Give us a certificate. So that's what's happening in Canada. So there are so many certification bodies, only 2 or 3 certification bodies have accreditation or proper quality management system, or they follow BPJPH Indonesian standards, or JAKIM standards, or UAE standards, or Saudian standards. Very few of them. But if you're working with organization across the border, for example, you are certified by HCB in USA, and you want them to approve your product for Indonesia or Malaysia, that will not happen because the cross-border certification is not accepted anymore. So that's the problem. I hope I cleared something.
Yeah, perhaps I can add here, Rachel. I think companies have to do their own due diligence. There are a lot of scams. Hey, where there's money to be made, hello, it's anyone can do it. So I guess companies will need to do your due diligence and get the verified, and validated information from these companies to protect yourselves. Yeah, I that's my advice to companies. Yeah.
It has been a
For
yeah.
me, just a small sharing, because normally when I did some sharing with the delegates, the words halal and halal certified, it carries a different meaning. For example, a chicken is being slaughtered, according to the Sharia compliance, and it's halal. But to be halal certified, that's another process that the organization has, the company has to go through, as what we have, the panelists have shared earlier. So normally these are the 2 things that I always inform the audience, halal and halal certified. Thank you.
Thank you all speakers for your very insightful answers. May I know if there is more questions from the floor before we close the sessions today? If there is no more questions, or maybe you feel shy to ask directly to the speakers in these sessions, you may also contact us at CABC or at IPAAO. We can definitely pass your questions to our speakers today. And once again, thank you very much for attending our events. And we look forward to see you again in our next webinar. And thank you also for our speakers for being so insightful, and especially for Daniel and Mr. Ramzi, who are joining from very early morning in your country. And so thank you for waking up very early to join us today. So as to close the sessions, I hope this session could remind you that the halal market in Southeast Asia offers immense potential, and with the right knowledge and strategies, Canadian businesses can truly thrive in this dynamic and rapidly growing space. And if you are interested in continuing the conversation, do not forget to connect with us on the Canada-ASEAN Business Council and the Indo-Pacific Agriculture and Agri-food Office social media. We have a lot of excellent resources for further insights, partnerships, and support. So we hope you found today's session valuable and informative, and we look forward to seeing you in the many ways in which you will unlock the opportunities within the halal market in Southeast Asia. So thank you once again, and enjoy the rest of your day for those who are in Canada. And I hope you have a nice day for those of you who are joining from the region. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.